years ago, the Menzies Research Centre, we published this monograph, The Promise of Digital Government, by a then promising backbencher called Angus Taylor. When you look back at it now, you can see that what we were talking about was that government needed to make this great leap into digital development to start being as good as the corporate sector at delivering services through digitisation. It's really a key message, and we've made great progress. We've made great progress at the federal level, but also amongst some states, noticeably, I think, in New South Wales. And so I'm joined today by Victor Dominello, the Minister for Customer Service in New South Wales. Welcome, Victor.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, your title. Governments didn't always think of taxpayers and citizens as their customers, did they?
No, in many ways, government delivers services, and when it delivers services, it's got a monopoly structure. So, we provide education services or police services or public health services, et cetera, and you don't get a choice. The citizen doesn't get a choice. They get a choice every 4 years during an election. But you have to change the mindset to say, if we give people a choice, like a customer, so they can vote with their feet, then all of a sudden we have to lift our game. And that's why we're modelling a new ministry around customer service. People say to me, well, why customer? Why not citizen? Well, we want to change the culture around choice and upping the game. But the other thing is, not everyone that needs services is going to be a citizen. So, for example, you might have tourists, critical part of our economy. They're not citizens. Or people on visas, they're not citizens, yet they still require excellent government services. So that's why we created the Minister, or the Ministry for Customer Service.
Those who are watching outside of New South Wales might not be fully aware of everything that's happened, I guess, in the last 7 years, I guess, since the election of the O'Farrell government. But I mean, here, for instance, my driver's licence is on my mobile phone now, and I can show that and the police will accept it. I want to renew my driver's licence, I get treated like a king. I go to this customer service centre where the staff are given, we have to mark them at the end, and they're acting like anywhere else. This has been a terrific leap forward, hasn't it, just in terms of this whole philosophy?
Oh, absolutely. And in many ways, the DDL, the digital driver's licence, in terms of the digital transformation that we're on, is the amuse-bouche. It's not even the entree. It's just a teaser, because we've invested $1.6 billion into the Digital Restart Fund here in New South Wales, which is a record spend. 1.6, not over 10 years, or not even over 4. It's over 3 years. We are absolutely smashing it in terms of every other state and territory in Australia, even compared to the fair. On a pro rata basis, we are way ahead, because we realise that to deliver exemplary government services, you need obviously the EQ at the front door, great human service delivery, but you need the smarts, you need the digital in the back end to deliver those services faster. So the DDL, digital driver's licence, is just the beginning of a grander vision for the people of our state.
Now, when we started to think about this 6 years ago with Angus Taylor, we obviously talked about the benefits of having this digital infrastructure in place in government and digital service delivery, and the breakdown of silos, crucially, because, as in New South Wales, you've found great success in making, across government departments, so instead of having government departments acting different ways, you've brought them together in terms of service delivery. We would never have envisaged the situation we're in with now with COVID-19, but how much has that digital infrastructure enabled you to respond to the pandemic?
Well, I think it's been one of our great tools, if you will, to help us respond to the pandemic. And again, the pandemic's still got a while to play out yet, so I don't want to second guess what happens tomorrow and the next month, but I feel confident that we've got the digital infrastructure to help us build resilience in relation to a COVID response. Now, what do I mean by that? When things are changing all the time. So when there was a Victorian outbreak, prior to the outbreak, we thought generally across Australia, things were getting under control. Next thing you know, there's an outbreak. How did we have to respond to that? Well, we had to quickly set up, controls around the border, around the Murray. So what did that look like? We had to issue digital passes, border passes, to get back and forth. We set those passes up, those digital passes, within 72 hours, which is extraordinary. Like, governments are traditionally slow and cumbersome and disorganised. To actually set up that infrastructure in 72 hours is an example. We were the first government to get out there and do text messaging services, because we know that 98% of people that get a COVID check are going to be tested negative. But if they're waiting at home, twiddling their thumbs and becoming anxious because they're waiting for a result, then that's bad for everyone. So we were the first state to get out there, send text messages. We've done things such as small business grants, again, digitally enabled to get money into businesses within 72 hours. We use mobility tracking data to help us track where the pandemic was spreading and at the pace of it. And that helped, particularly in the early stages, because mobility was a proxy for transmission. So these are all things that we've got as part of our armoury here in Team New South Wales to help us respond in a laser-like way to the pandemic. Now, again, something could happen tomorrow or the next month or the month after that, but we have definitely got a digital infrastructure here that helps us fight this damn thing called COVID.
You've got, I think, multiple sources of information there. I mean, I know I read today that you're using the Opal card, so this is when I tap to go on the tram or the train. That's one way of tracking movement. And I think it's fantastic, but inevitably I think people will ask questions about how much government surveillance is going on of individuals. Can you put their minds at rest?
Absolutely. It's like everything we do has to have privacy baked into the design element. And we've got a privacy commissioner here. And as we're rolling out more and more digital products, privacy is at the forefront. So for me, I can build any digital product. You know, the technology exists pretty much. We put a man on the moon 50 years ago. We've got, the technology is not the barrier. It's, in terms of digital products through government service delivery channels, it's about trust. And how do you build trust? It's for me, it's a three-legged stool of privacy, security, transparency wrapped around with ethics. And as long as you bake that in, you can build any digital product you like. And as we're rolling out more and more digital services, that has to be paramount. And you know, one of the big things for me moving forward, particularly as the world is sort of schisming now into autocracies and into liberal democracies, and the pandemic has really started to enliven that debate, you know, which governments or which societal structures work better. You know, for me, liberal democracy, freedom of thought, freedom of expression, freedom of movement, all these things that are critical to us. You know, privacy is so central to that, so we have to guard it. But we need to make sure that it's built into all digital service delivery. It's not just having privacy and not having world-class health services that are attached to digital products. You know, you need to do both.
And I think those trade-offs you sometimes have to make seem stark here. I mean, do we want a government like, say, Victoria, in which the police have granted extraordinary powers under the Chief Health Officer, or would we prefer, if we can, use all the technology available to keep the virus under control and allow us to go about our own business? I think most people will opt for the second, even if if there is a lot of data about us out there.
Oh, absolutely. And look at South Korea. Like with South Korea and Taiwan, for example, they've had a warm up because of MERS and SARS. So they've already got into a default position where, you know, they now, oh, it's a pandemic. You know, before it was, you know, MERS and SARS, they put on their masks, they do their hand hygiene, all of these things. This is the first time we've had to deal with this. So we're training ourselves for the first time. They know that there will be more, how shall we say, surveillance, but I don't like using that word because it's not in a strict sense of the word, but an understanding of movement for the protection of the people. But they also know that at the end of the pandemic period, that stops, as it should in a liberal democracy. So we need to understand that, if we want to keep jobs open in a safe way, we need to make sure that when we do see the virus, we can hammer it down really quickly. We just can't say, we just can't do a whack-a-mole approach with a blindfold, because that means a lockdown for everybody, which is terrible for everybody. So we need to be very focused. And I think if we bring the public along in that journey, we have the Privacy Commissioner overseeing everything, then we build the trust, and then we can get through this wretched pandemic with as little scars as possible.
One thing that's slightly counterintuitive to me in this is that I'd always thought that governments weren't actually very good at innovation, and that the private sector, was so much more driven and agile. How much private sector involvement have you had in this, or do you have whole bunches of bureaucrats working at their desks trying to make this work?
That's a great question. So let me use the digital driver's license as an example. So when we rolled that out about a year or so ago now, that was a partnership, it was a collaborative model, and that's what I like, because when I speak to industry, I say to them, I don't want parasitic relationships anymore. When the government goes out to industry, I don't want us to sit here like this big, lazy beast that moves slowly, and that we just get an industry to put a saddle on us, and then just we pay a license fee and that's it. I want a partnership, a genuine collaboration where they can help us build capacity in the public sector, and that way we retain them in as a partner model. And that way, because we built more capacity, then we can be more ambitious in our aspirations and go back to the private sector and say, hey, you thought the last project was exciting, what about this one? And that's what we did with the digital driver's license. We partnered with the private sector to help build capacity in the public sector. So we had people in the department going across, working with them and vice versa to build the digital driver's license. That's the type of collaboration that government needs to have a deeper relationship with industry to make sure that we move in an agile way. I can now proudly say that we've got to the point now that we're doing things such as Service New South Wales or Digital Twin or a whole lot of other things where the private sector looks at us and say, wow, you're ahead of us. And that's not a bad place to be. It's pretty hard, but it's not a bad place to be.
Well, look, thank you, Victor. And I mean, the Prime Minister holds up New South Wales as the poster boy for response in this crisis. So congratulations to you and Premier Gladys Berejiklian and the team, and just keep on top of it for us. Thank you.
I'll do my best. Thank you. Thank you again.